The Department of Commerce publishes that Basic Guide to Exporting book that I gave you guys last week. There are a couple extra copies. I also mentioned on Global Edge, there are modules, so you can actually go through that book in a more of a PowerPoint format. And Stephanie, one of our MBA students, will speak to you on your headphones or on your computer if that's more interesting for you than going through the book. We also, Sarah mentioned this, we have the files in MP3. So if you're traveling in your car or maybe at the gym and you want to listen to information on exporting, you can do that in an audio format as well. And there it is. A little bit more about what we do. We do have the Global Business Club of Michigan. I mentioned this a little bit last week. So not during the summer, but during the rest of the academic year, 6 to 9 times a year, we have a half-day seminar on exporting, and we have a keynote luncheon speaker. So recently we've had Chuck Bird from Neogen discuss sourcing and selling products in China. The president and CEO of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce has come in and spoken. Every year we do one with the Department of Agriculture here in the state of Michigan. And so this past year we did it on, what did we discuss this year? Jamie came in and we discussed selling to supermarkets in Canada. So we went very specifically into the agriculture market, supermarkets in Canada, Canadian labeling restrictions. We had the Michigan Agricultural Exporter of the Year come in and speak with us for the lunch. So this year I believe it was Cherry Central. Last year New Zealand Farm Services came in and spoke. We had the U.S. Ambassador to Singapore speak last year. We had Canadian Consul General Roy Norton come in and speak. This last spring we did one on risk and managing risk in times of uncertainty, looking at what's happening specifically in Europe right now. A lot of U.S. companies that are exporting are starting to see from their European clients, I think you mentioned this earlier, Joe, that they're asking for extended payment terms. Right? And so if your customer is asking you, well, can I have 90 days to pay instead of 15? What kind of a position does that put you in? How do you deal with that situation? Wow.
No.
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 Simply no. And then what happens when your customer goes out of business and then you don't have any customers, right? So there's lots of stuff to consider. But we discussed those risks. We had private risk insurance people come in and talk. We had people from the Small Business Administration, from the Exim Bank, in to talk about their insurance. So you can buy private insurance. You can also use a broker or a company to purchase insurance through SBA or Exim, which is usually a lot more affordable than private insurance. And sometimes they insure things that that private industry is not insuring at the time. Sometimes you get trade finance assistance for regions of the world where the private banks are not interested in extending credit right now because the U.S. might see it as a strategic country of importance to extend credit to. So there might be credit out there for something that your regular banker is not offering you credit for. So there's opportunities. There's lots of opportunities out there for exporting, and sometimes there are opportunities beyond what you can find in the United States. Absolutely. So, questions? So did everyone play around on Global Edge a little bit in order to complete those tools? What was your favorite part and or least favorite part of Global Edge? Mine's headed there right now. Anything? No?
I thought it was all great.
Okay. Well, if you do have feedback, we are interested in improving it.
Well, it's just going to take time.
There's a lot there.
Yeah, that's the thing that we learned was spend time on it to become familiar.
And as you do research, I mean, we cite our sources, and somebody had mentioned earlier using Wikipedia. Wikipedia is usually pretty good at citing sources. But as you become more and more adept researcher, right, you want to find out where this information is coming from. And sometimes because that opens a door, and you find more information into what you thought, right? You have a little bit of information and you find a site, and then it expands and it gives you a lot more information. Or, you know, some sources are more legitimate than others. So you want to, once you start nosing around and you find information out there, how accurate is Wikipedia? I don't like my students to use it in the classroom, but for practical uses, a lot of times it is great, and especially as a first place to go. What else? If you check out the state information on Global Edge, also you might find some, especially if you already know your competitor, your biggest competitor is in Arkansas. You might be able to find some trade stats in Arkansas that help you out a little bit, right? You might be able to gain some insight into them just by looking at what's going on. Or just overall, look at what other states are doing and maybe compare what's happening in Michigan or what's happening in your industry here as vis-a-vis what's happening, again, in Arkansas, in California, what have you. We are working via the STEP program with the state of Michigan of creating I don't want to say a mini Global Edge, but a site of exporting resources for Michigan companies. So it's going to be pared down a little bit and a lot more specific. Again, the Market Potential Index we're working on for specific industries. Automotive, for example, as that's really important within this state. So we're working to put something like that together. And that's all. I got nothing else. It's kind of not an exciting way to end, but other questions? No? Well, I held you over a little bit last week, but this week was a whole lot faster. I thought there would be a lot more questions on your tools that you put together. So if you do have other questions on those, I'd be happy to talk to you about them. If you do want me or a member of my research team to come in and sit down with you and help you do a little bit more in-depth research and follow up on what you started, let us know. Okay? And yeah, stay in touch with the chamber, stay in touch with us, and let us know how else we can be of assistance. Thank you for your time.